Sophia's sofa. And who is Sophia, you might ask? Well, not, as you might imagine, a relative or a friend, or even a homeless girl off the street. In fact, to be honest with you, I've never even met her. Oh, we've spoken on the phone, of course, and I once saw her across the room at an art show, but we've never been formally introduced. She's been here once or twice when we've been out, but nobody wanted to make it a regular occurrence. Nobody dared. You see, Sophia is like a ghost. Oh, she's real enough, all right, with her fists and her foul mouth and her sweet talking like poisoned honey. But I mean, she's a kind of presence. Whether you acknowledge her or not, she's always there, hanging like a haze of smoke over how you relate to him. She's the acrid tang in the taste of his words. She's the cloud that comes up behind his eyes when he looks at you, blaming you for not being his mother, or for having a mother that's even a little better than she is, or for having a mother he'd much prefer, or just for the fact that you didn't spend your childhood being skewered on Sophia's hook, like he did. Or perhaps she's more like an evil spirit, someone to whom terrible things have happened in a mythical past, which no one remembers, certainly not with any accuracy, and who therefore has entered another state of being, one in which she has become a malevolent force seeking unjust revenge, and her influence extends over the objects which she's given him. At first, when he finally left, I hardly dared get rid of anything he left behind, in case if and when he did return, he demanded to know where they were. I don't know why I did this, or rather why I didn't just throw them away at once. He surely knew as well as I that they were just hideous rubbish, charity shop rejects. But I waited, and instead attacked them incrementally. First, some of the repellent mugs with their stained interiors and insultingly tasteless exteriors. Then the unspeakable plates with their Dickensian thinness, speaking of schools where only mashed potato was served at meals, and then came with a beating to go with it. Next, the soup bowls, which I cautiously hid in a box under a sofa in the kitchen, and kept just one, but as an ashtray, for guests. Just in the same way that he smashed every single one of the earthenware side plates and saucers by leaving them out for neighbours' cats, who then plagued the birds. And after everything else, and because it's something that we don't have, and you never know when somebody might ask for one, the egg cup. It's of a pebbly hue, all mottled, and looks inside as if someone has many times tried to mix something terrible in it. I wouldn't use it. I could never bring myself to. I'd rather eat an egg just off a piece of wood than that. I wouldn't use it if every piece of crockery for a 10-mile radius had been smashed to smithereens and it alone was left. But at last I gained courage and bought a new one, shining easy to clean white, and the old egg cup was sneaked to the tip in a box of things which nobody wanted. But of course he was here for so long that there were many things littered about in drawers, cupboards and stray shelves. He's been gone for almost a year now, and still I keep finding things. Some of them have so woven themselves into the fabric of this place that I can't remember what was there before. Perhaps the last thing, though, now is Sophia's sofa. It must be one of the shabbiest, smallest old sofas ever to have come to the end of its days in someone's house, or ever to have been dragged out of the dump to serve another turn. Now colourless flowers of some description cavort over a grey woven surface of a pastel hue long since unguessable. It is heavily stained, perhaps by many animals, who knows? But it is a two-seater, and if you do dare to sit on it, has a deceptive bounce left in it that explains why it has survived for so long, perhaps. He used it, possibly for himself, certainly for his dog, the lovely little dog which he loved, trusted and cared for more than anyone else in the world, not least because he has either been let down by the people he has known, like Sophia, or when he does meet anyone trustworthy, simply refuses to believe that they are. That sofa which has almost certainly been the site of many and various flea powders. And now this sofa in this house where almost everyone seems to be broke and so almost always accepts pretty much anything that's offered to them for free, sits in the spare room covered in old duvets, tents, rugs, all kinds of junk. But I have my eye on it. You could argue that any sort of comfort has no price, but it was Sophia's, and that's enough for me. Ah, Sophia, who stages endless redemptions of you alone can get me to stop drinking myself into oblivion, and then passes out, knocking her head on something, and then when the ambulance crew is called, abuses them, and so they are joined by the police, and all the time being the centre of the soap opera, until waking up in hospital and charming all the nurses, weeping she'll be good this time, and boasting of her grandchildren. Except, of course, that she never does stop drinking. Whether days or months, however many warnings the doctors give, however much the whiskey costs, however she is threatened with fatal consequences, still she carries on. And however she breaks the heart again of whichever child has come to help her stop. Usually him, but once in a way his sister, compounding the damage and adding the insult of an abused adulthood to the injury of the abused childhoods she gave them all. Your mother's sofa. No, I think it's time it went the way of her crockery. Perhaps then I can declare this house free of Sophia's shadow.